Trigger warning. This episode discusses sensitive topics, including suicide. Please listen with care and discretion.
Hello and welcome to the Metabolic Balance ANZ podcast. So this is where we share real stories and insights to help you on your journey with metabolic balance and just learn a little bit more about what it's all about. And we welcome wonderful guests who come on and share their stories. And today I am so delighted to welcome Helen Harrison. Helen is a client of mine. Helen did Metabolic Balance in 2021, but also she is an incredible expert. She's a coach, speaker, and author, and she's going to be sharing her insights as well from her professional insights into balance and great health together with that work-life balance as well. So an enormous welcome to Helen. Hello, Helen.
Oh, hello, Cherry. Thank you so much. It's so lovely to be here. And when you asked me, I thought, oh, yes, absolutely.
It's wonderful to have you here because I do remember working with you as a client, and it's really from there that we've become sort of friends. And I value your opinion on so many things, and so for you to come on and share, so your professional insights, I can't wait to have this conversation with you. So, would you mind just starting off for everybody, just sharing, how did we meet and what led you to start with Metabolic Balance?
Yes, interesting. If I recall, it was at Julie Mason's, she had a get together. And I was in a place where I was having so many gut problems. And, I'm one that I sort of put it out to the universe and the right person will come in. And you happened to be there and we started talking and I knew instinctively anybody who hangs around Julie has to be okay. So I then reached out to you and I remember I had an initial with you and I think I was in the throes of moving house because that's right. And you said, well, do you want to wait? And look, when I make up my mind about things, there's no waiting. No, we're going to start right now. And it was the best decision. It, it really was. And I was all in. Yeah. Seems like such a long time ago.
Because you had very significant gut issues for a very long time as well. This had been a recurring thing for your whole adult life, really, as I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of it was emotional anxiety. It really was. But it was also, I don't know how deep and down we need to go. Actually, do I write about it in my book? I can't recall. But anyway, a lot of it was emotional. But I suppose if we cut to the chase, which I still use today, is 7, 1 and 7. So eating 3 times a day. I was like a little squirrel. And after I worked with you, in suitcases or bags, I'd still find little snacks because I was someone who had a fear that I wasn't going to have food because I didn't have much growing up. So, my whole body was so inflamed, it never actually got a break. And working with you, I then look at certainly, I had to confront a lot of beliefs in how I did life, but still to this day, 7, 1 and 7, protein, vegetable, salad. It's not difficult. It's actually really quite simple, you know? Yeah. So it's been an absolute game changer for me. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's also important to just, share as well, I think, that it wasn't anything to do with weight we were working with at all. You did not need to lose any weight. And in fact, I think you even could have done with putting a little bit on, probably even. Maybe that's also what happened, back in that time. So it really was to get on top of those eating habits, that pattern that you were finding yourself in, and the challenges of the gut issues and the pain you were in.
Totally. And it has turned it all around. I do not have dairy, I do not have eggs, and I do not have yeast. Um, and I am so healthy for it. I went to Bali a few weeks ago and I had a few too many drinks and I had some fried rice, and in the fried rice was freaking egg. I woke up the next day and my body let me know, nah, didn't like that. So it's just, I now trust my body. My body lets me know. Yeah. And just really honoring and keep coming back to that 7, 1 and 7. Yeah. It's, and it's, yeah, there's so much I could say about metabolic rebalance because it rebalanced, and it constantly still, how many years on? 3 years on, nearly 4 years on, I'm still using it.
Yeah, absolutely. But it also marries up what you really work on in your professional life. So doesn't it? The balance. It's learning how to sort of, how to listen and understand what really works well for you, as opposed to just sort of plowing ahead with what you think you should be doing or could be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is so true. I think, well, for 17 years, I've been doing individual counseling, I've been doing marriage counseling, and I've now transitioned so much more into coaching. And what I really enjoy about coaching, I talk with people, you either live above the line or you live below the line. When you live above the line, it's a very empowered place to live, but it's a place of love, but it's listening to your own body and listening to how you show up in life. So I work with a lot of high achievers. Now, the thing with high achievers is when they get out of balance, it's then that push mentality. Of course, I'm a high achiever. You're a high achiever. Uh, and it's so easy to get out of balance. And so it's all of the different ways of what we need to do. It's the signs, like if I'm overworking or if I'm not sleeping or I get into the eating habits that aren't supporting me, it's I'm slipping down into, really dysfunctional ways. And I look at it as I'm below the line, which is very disempowering. And then I can spiral down and then my thinking becomes negative. So all of it is balance, and what each person needs to be in balance is so different. Yeah, I bet you find that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. We all need a coach in order to help us understand what that is. Even though you're an expert, you know all of this stuff, but equally it was super challenging for you to bring this into your eating habits and how the health of your body. And so again, it's also recognizing, even though we can know a lot of stuff, it doesn't mean that we also know necessarily how to look inwards and kind of work out what we need to do and have the space to be able to implement it.
Actually, it's so true what you're saying, isn't it? Having the space and to go inward, particularly high achieving individuals, are being able to create that space, to be able to slow down, to be able to actually listen and go inside, because we are so sort of wired, aren't we, to look outside, to the external world. It's such a different way. Exactly like what you do is teach people how to listen to their own bodies and what food is good for you. For me, I teach people how to emotionally connect and how to have awareness to what you are feeling. We often numb ourselves or get busy to not feel. So that I'm not a business coach. I call myself like an inner wealth coach or a transformational coach. It's learning how to actually stay in the body and stay with those difficult feelings, and slowing it right down to actually name what's here, and allow it. I've always run from my feelings. I remember very first counselor, I think, was in my early 30s. And how do you feel, Helen? Well, no freaking idea how I felt. It was just sort of sad, mad, and glad. And I didn't do feelings. I didn't connect inwardly. But the pain, the inner pain that creates is enormous. So that is the work that I do, is support people to find that inner awareness, and also accept what is out of your control. so much of life is totally out of our control.
Yeah. Is it? It's so true. It's a place of vulnerability that we actually need people to come to say, do you know what? I do need help. I can't work this out for myself, and I am actually ready for things to change. And then it also, like you, it's the acceptance that things do actually need to change. That you're not some kind of superhero or bulletproof or okay, I should be able to, I can only talk from my point of view, but I should be able to eat whatever I want because that's what it's always says, balance, eat a little bit of everything. You only live once. Well, yeah, but you damage yourself over and over again and you struggle, but somehow this is, yeah. And likewise for you, people kind of almost can making the same mistakes or, the relationships that they have, whether at work or in personal life or whatever, that they don't really work because, again, you're not really listening to what you actually need or what is actually in your best interests.
That is so true, Cherry, because it's actually listening to yourself. You keep damaging yourself over and over and over again. And that's where I got to, is I was damaging myself over and over again with my self-rejection. So whether it be the food I ate or pushing myself, with the fatigue and the burnout, or self-rejecting in, I've written a book which I'm going to be launching shortly, and I talk about my comfy couch. It certainly wasn't comfy, but it was like this almost, I'll say, sick, sad place where I'd just sort of dissolve into my comfy couch. It was a metaphor for where I'd go for my pain because I didn't have the skill set and the knowing how to get out of that. And so that's what I teach people, is to catch yourself before you spiral down too quickly. I mean, it begins with your thoughts, and then from your thoughts in your body, what goes on. So it's being able to have that awareness, then that acceptance about whatever's going on. But I think the biggest thing, and I think you'd get this as a coach as well, is the authentic action, the little bite-sized goals that start to create a bit of change. And I know what I've always done wrong in the past is I've made my goals so ginormous that I never actually achieved them. So, and coming back to metabolic balance, it was bite-sized goals. And that's why I was able to achieve it. Because if I sort of went too far into the future, it would seem so overwhelming. So and because you've got to fill your own esteem up, and it's only by action. It's like you've got to rewire yourself, and it's only through action, like, oh, did that. Had a good meal. So that is, we're very similar in what we do.
And you have a good meal and then you didn't have the pain afterwards.
Oh, well, that was the biggest thing. Things started to shift quite quickly for me. Yeah. But it was, yeah, a really interesting time because I saw you just after my sister had passed.
And that was what I was, what I wanted to, ask if you would share this incredibly painful, but I know I know you've worked through this, and because one of the things that can, life still happens whenever we're trying to focus on anything. And you started, this health journey. We were really focusing. You were doing really well, and then your sister passed. And I remember that you coming in and sharing, and yeah.
Well, it was a shock because she took her life. And, for anybody who has experienced that, but it wasn't just the first time. I had a brother who also took his life. So to be back there again, and I'm absolutely fine to talk about it. I've, of course, had to do a huge amount of healing from that. But I remember you were one of the first people I saw. It was like going out into the outside world after such a traumatic, because it was sort of off the back of COVID. So we had the funeral on Zoom. And it was, I remember I started dropping a lot of weight because of the shock. Yeah, and the last thing you want to do when you're going through something like that. But you know what? I call it post-traumatic growth, what has happened, because it was through my sister's passing that she's actually given me the courage to actually show up in the world how I really want to show up. Um, I've always wanted to be a speaker, but I've been too friggin' terrified. And I've always wanted to write my life story, but again, I've let fear stop me. But it's whether she's channeling through me, or I now trust something so much bigger now. So from my sister's passing, um, this book has emerged called Inner Wealth, From Pain to Purpose. So it's we all have pain, but you've got to keep moving. You've got to keep pushing through it. And so Inner Wealth it's a memoir. It's my life story, but I just had this sort of knowing inside of me that I keep pushing through this pain because there's this purpose that's like pulling me. And that's why I've called it From Pain to Purpose. Uh, and this was why I came to you, because for me to show up in the world and to live to my potential, I've got to be friggin' healthy. I've got to be emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. And so I knew the food was a big part, because when your gut is not healthy and your gut hurts, I don't really want to be in my body and embody it and be with all of that, because it's too friggin' painful. So I'll just stay out of my body. Well, how can you live truly aligned to yourself when you're not in your body?
Well, you're ignoring a really fundamental problem. You're just trying to ignore it and pretend it's not there, and it's not important, but it is massively important.
Oh, because the gift that my sister gave me, I did not realize, was I've never actually been in my body. The pain in my body from the food, it was very painful, but I'd never actually been in my body, and it's really hard to describe what I'm trying to say, but it's coming from a place where disassociation started way back when I was younger, and I have spent many decades doing a lot of my inner work, but it wasn't until my sister's passing that I sort of like landed in my body, and actually, because I knew that the only way to heal was to be with the pain. And I now had the tool set where when my brother passed, I freaking put it in a box for many, many years, because I didn't know how to be with that pain. Whereas this time I did. So that's what the story is about. But I wrote Inner Wealth as a conversation starter, exactly like the conversation we're having now. It's a conversation around the grief of suicide, around loss, around relationship breaks down. I think being a human, we have a lot of loss, but we aren't taught how to be with all of that loss. So we just chuck it away in a box, and we drink lots and we eat lots and we ignore it all. I've been quite dramatic, but you know what I mean. So that's what this book is about. It's a conversation starter, that to live fully in your body and to feel happy and content and that peacefulness inside. You've got to have that awareness and that acceptance around whatever card you're dealt, but then also be very purpose driven.
Do you think the whole process of getting well, that whole time, it was a very very traumatic time with you, losing your sister, but at the same time, you also had the tools and the structure of nourishing your body and already feeling so much better in that I do remember that as being a time where you were so much more resilient to be able to come to the place and even now move on the way you had, because your health was better. So many people stumble because we still have life stresses. That comes with loving people as well. Like, we can't live as an island. We love people, hence we're vulnerable because we love people to that pain. But at the same time, holding yourself in a healthier place. Would you agree with that?
Oh my goodness, yes. Could you imagine if I'd gone through that trauma and my body was how it was? Yeah. And Russ, my partner, he kept my food up to me, even though I did not feel like eating, 7, 1 and 7, all the good nutritious food, because I mean, nutrition is medicine. It's just full stop. It's me Food is absolutely crucial element. And I very much believe I'm very supported. It's some universal intelligence. It's like, what's the timing? I had a knowing, like you said, are you sure you want to start now? And absolutely, it's like that gut, head, heart and gut. Yes, I do. How was I supposed to know?
Yeah, I think you'd actually had enough of that pain. I remember you were just like, I don't want to have to live with this anymore, because you're as I remember, you were actually quite debilitated and scared all the time to eat out, because it was so mixed about how you were going to feel and how quickly you needed to find a toilet. And it was an awful place to be.
Yeah, it was. Well, to the point where a lettuce leaf would be okay, but not too much more than that. I was so inflamed. But it's trying to find the right person, isn't it? And for you to be in that right place. And when it's a yes, it's going for it.
And I think that's one of the things that I say about, with Metabolic Balance, though, we have a program that you also have a certain, it's a surety that you're going to get the food right. But then the person, the coach, is absolutely central and key to bringing it alive and making it really work for that long term.
Yes. And I think it's all about trusting the process, and just knowing, just keep going. Yeah. It's crucial. And I think it's the absolute foundation. I mean, your food is your nourishment. You have to look after your body. And if you want to go long term into old age, you have to put good food in your body.
If somebody's listening to us chat here, Helen, and they are kind of thinking to themselves, well, I'd like something to change in me, but I don't know whether this would work for me. I don't know if this is what I need to do. I'm still confused. Whether we're talking about metabolic balance, or whether we're talking about even working with a coach to really address the life choices, or how you show up to the world. Kind of, what's the bit of advice that you would say about maybe even overcoming the fear? Because I see that as fear. It's a fear of failure. It's the fear that it's not going to work for me, fear that it's going to be wasted or whatever.
Something that helped me enormously, and I'd sit in the question a lot. So what's the cost to me? Like when I was in my marriage and I knew it had finished, but I kept on coming back to what's the cost to me. So for me, it was burnout. It was my self-esteem. I knew. So I was lying to myself. I was self-rejecting. So really getting clear on what the cost is, but then also, and this is where I talk about pain and purpose, they're almost parallel. I had a vision of how I wanted my life to look. And so dropping into what does that look like? What does that feel like in all the different areas of your life? So actually embodying it, feeling it, and then how am I going to get there? And that's where, okay, I actually need a coach to help me get there. You just know, it's just a knowing.
Well, I think this is, it's so similar, even what you're saying, and when I'm thinking about people doing, committing to metabolic balance, because again, it's like when things have to change. To be honest, you just want to know, you just want to get on, you just want to get going, you just want to say, right, yeah, tell me what to do, tell me what to eat, let me just please get going. And when there's a reluctance to actually say, okay, well, I still want to carry on doing what I'm still doing, and I'm not sure if this is going to work for me. It's almost like, well, again, what have you got to lose? What is the cost to you? That's such a great question. What is the real cost? And sometimes, the way I look at things often, we lose a lot of time. Time is our most precious commodity, isn't it? We can't get time back. You can't get months and weeks or years back when you kind of are lying on the couch or sleeping because you've got no energy, or you can't get any of that time back.
So I think it's, what is the cost? If you are struggling with your health and like the gut problems or whatever health symptoms you've got, or you're in a relationship with someone where you aren't happy, or you're in a relationship with yourself and you're not happy, I think that's a real turning point when you can put your hand on your heart and go, I'm not happy. So, well, what are you going to do about it? So it's just taking the first step, whether it's reaching out to you or whether it's reaching out to me. I mean, I do a bit of a call it an inner wealth alignment call, because it's seeing where people are at, how hungry, because coaching is not for everybody. If you are not ready for coaching, it isn't for you. Because nobody can do it for you. Like I write it in my book, nobody's going to save you. I used to think somebody was going to save me, but you're going to save yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same with metabolic balance nutrition plans. We give you the tools, we give you the structure. This is what I now need you to do. This is what has the amazing potential to reduce this inflammation in your body. But yeah, in your kitchen, when you're alone in your kitchen, you're the one that's following it. You're the one that's doing it. You're the one that's buying the food and preparing the food.
And I still have my apple in the afternoons. 4 years on, I still have. Isn't that extraordinary? I just thought of that.
Yeah, well, of course, that's the tools. You've got the tools in place. You know when it's the right time. You know the right time for you. You know when it works for you. And again, that is a classic example, everybody, that we always tweak it for an individual too. So, you find what works for you. But finding that tool, that understanding of your food, to me, it's like your understanding of how to live in yourself and what to address is so similar. It's so vitally important.
And it comes back to balance. Yeah. Yeah. And there's no permanency, is there? We're constant evolving and changing, and it's, yeah. But I know I've got my own little set rules, particularly around like bedtime, getting to bed at a good hour, because then that gives me the good sleep, which then I wake up at a good time, and then all of these little rituals so that you can show up and be your best version and really live a life that you absolutely love. And I love what you said, joy.
Finding the joy. We just got to keep finding that. And today, oh my goodness, if you are not looking after yourself and really focusing on what is around you and what you're listening to, what you're absorbing, it's a hard world. We have a lot of exposure to things right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Helen, it's been so wonderful to talk to you. It's been, really, I could carry on chatting all afternoon, actually. So, thank you so much. And if you'd like to hear more or find out more about Helen's new book, Inner Wealth, and how you can hear more about Helen's work, there'll be the show notes. So please do check out the show notes for that. And also, if you want to get in touch with your local metabolic balance coach as well, find your metabolic balance coach, because metabolic balance, like we just said, it's such an invaluable way of getting the food right. Thank you, Helen. Again, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks, Cherry.